You are with the big story here. I'm Seher Zama. In what we are discussing today, a huge scam that has been unearthed. A decoy couple that was planted by the NCW, which is the National Committee in Delhi's Karol Bagh area. And this then led to the police to bust an international sex selection racket. On Monday, it was a joint raid conducted by the NCW along with the Delhi police on this particular IVF call center, and what has been revealed is shocking. Hundreds of couples have actually paid lakhs to go abroad for custom-made babies. Effectively, picking the gender of your choice of the child through the use of IVF. And more often than not, this choice, of course, has been to get a male child. Modus operandi was straight. Couple was charged anything between 8 to 9 lakhs. Woman was flown either to Dubai or Thailand to avail of this IVF treatment with an assurance that it's going to be a male child. These demands were mostly made for male children. The NCW, which are now launching a nationwide inspection since this call center has been linked to across 100 clinics in the country. It is 2019 that we're looking at today. Patriarchy that still exists to the desperate extent that you have couples willing to pay an amount of about 8 to 9 lakhs to ensure that they do have a male child. What is the government doing to curb this? Is the government even ready to handle this racket? We're going to be asking all of those questions to our panelists in just a bit. Let's first take a listen into that statement that has been made from the chairperson of the NCW on this.
जो एक्सप्लेन करने वाला था उसने कहा कि बैंकॉक और दुबई में ये हम आपको भेजेंगे और वहाँ 10-12 दिन आपको रहना पड़ेगा और ये हम श्योरिटी करते हैं कि मेल चाइल्ड होगा वहाँ आपको और इसमें 8.5 लाख का खर्चा है आपका। और इन्होंने फिर बोला कि हमारे और भी फ्रेंड्स हैं अलग अलग प्रदेशों में, जैसे बॉम्बे में है या कोई चेन्नई में है, तो वो यहाँ तक नहीं आना चाहते आपके साथ, तो कैसे किया जाए। तो उन्होंने कहा आप डोंट वरी, हमारे सभी जगह सेंटर हैं, बॉम्बे में भी हैं और चेन्नई में भी हैं, आप जहाँ कहोगे आपके फ्रेंड्स वहाँ आ सकते हैं।
All right, they had an infrastructure which was pan-India. They were willing to take in couples desperate for a male child of a gender of their choice across the country. Investigations on this are still on. Our correspondent Alok is getting us further details here. Alok, this was a racket that was busted only with the intervention of the NCW. But given the fact that there's an indication that this was a pan-India operation, undoubtedly this has perhaps been on for several years now.
Yes, Seher, in fact, as far as the investigation is concerned, what we are getting to know that this call center was running in the Karol Bagh area of central Delhi for past 2 years. And in fact, what the call center employees told the police as well as the authorities, that they were in touch with 6 lakh customers. So these 6 lakhs, most of them are those who are in fact, those persons who are in fact wanting the child. These are the people who were in touch with them, this call center. In fact, this call center has made a website. This is, in fact, this name of the website is Ila Women, what the police told us. And in that website, there is a number is also given, that is the toll-free number, where usually people call to know how they can undergo with the IVF process. So in that, during the time of conversation, they were told that they could also get their choice gender. That is the catch point, that during the conversation they were told that they can get their choice gender, and the person, that the family who want male child, they were basically lured in these whole fraud. So at that point in time, they were told that they would get a package of 8 lakh rupees, in which they would send the woman to the foreign countries where the whole IVF process will be done on the woman, and then at that point in time she has to stay there in the countries, in fact like Dubai or Thailand. She has to stay there for 15 days. Then after that she has to come back, and then she will be conceived. So this is the basic process of that whole fraud that was being running. This call center was in fact was involved, and in fact this call center was in connection with around 1500 IVF clinics all across countries, and mostly in the metropolitan cities like Bangalore, Bombay or Delhi. So these persons who are in fact wanting the child, they have to go to the clinic, and from that clinic they will basically move to the foreign countries, where they would go under they would undergo the IVF technique, and then they come back.
All right.
So this fraud
Alok,
was
stay with
running.
us. What you're explaining is that
this has
been a sophisticated system in place that has been operating, and because it's been pan-India as well, the number that you've updated is that this call center was not just connected to 100 clinics, 1500 clinics across the country. Stay with us. Let's get in our panelists at this point. We have Ms. Anila Singh, spokesperson of the BJP, with us. Also Dr. Duru Shah, gynecologist. First to you, Dr. Shah. In your view on how prepared are our authorities, our government, even something as much as the ICMR, which is helping government provide guidelines for the functioning of IVF clinics here, because this is a case of an absolute manipulation of the IVF. This is something that is unheard of, that has not been discussed, that has not been brought in any of the bills concerning childbearing, concerning the ART bill, concerning the surrogacy bill. Are we really expecting the government to be prepared to tackle this?
Actually, for the last few years, actually, the ISAR, the Indian Society of Assisted Reproduction, and many other specialists have worked with the government to prepare the guidelines. These guidelines have been revised at least 2 to 3 times, but they have not yet become a law. As a matter of fact, the last time there was the surrogacy bill went through the Lok Sabha, but then it could not go through the Rajya Sabha, and this with the current government, it has gone through the Lok Sabha, and we hear that in the next session, it will most probably pass through the Rajya Sabha. And I think we as doctors would welcome this kind of a move, because it's extremely important that we have ethical guidelines developed for our IVF centers. There should be a good monitoring agency, which should also involve the doctors, because honestly, when you have only bureaucrats probably monitoring it, they may not understand the intricacies of these various issues. And I think at this point in time, we still don't have any monitoring system, except for the ICMR, which has accredited certain clinics who have the necessary required facilities. And also we are reporting to the PCPNDT under the PCPNDT Act to the municipal authorities. So that much is in place, but I think we need much more to get this all organized.
That's right. Ms. Anila Singh, do you think there's a requirement now to once again revisit the ART Bill 2019, which our Union Health Minister has promised that it's going to be passed in the next session, because the Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill, as it is known, the ART Bill, essentially just takes into account the age of a woman to receive IVF. That should be capped at the age of 50. This was based on a case that a 78-year-old woman had received IVF and she bore a child, which was being seen as a responsible act to be a parent at that big an age. It is taking into account the age factor, but it is not taking into account the manipulation of IVF for gender preference.
Absolutely, Seher, I totally agree with you and with my co-panelist, doctor, that a committee should be made which can keep an eye, and that committee should, in today's date, I think doctors are not included in it. Doctors should be included in it. So the doctors, at least they know that where the mischief can be played. And you are absolutely correct. We all are waiting, and rather I think this bill should have been passed long time ago. But we are waiting to get it passed, and so that an act can be made on it. With the age and other things should be included, as you very well said, Seher. Not only the age, but the people who want custom-made baby, the people who want a male child, not a female child, you know, all those things, these things should be included. I'm pretty sure that these things will be included, and then finally the bill will be passed and act will be made on it, because this is very unfortunate. Rather, I'll say it
All
is
right.
obnoxious,
Yes.
I can say. I mean, obnoxious can be a very hard word to use, but it is indeed like if I think from a women point of view, if I think from a mother's point of view, I mean, for a mother to become mother is something great. I mean, then there is pressure from her in-law side, from her husband's side, that you have to produce male child only, khandan ko aage naam dena hai. I think so women, or I can say the girls are much better, or they are equally better with the boys if we compare to. So indeed this is very obnoxious, and it is great that these people, or these racket which was going on, they are under trap now. And those people who are not trapped, even they will be understanding this thing, that if you are going to run such business, it is not going to be entertained in the country right now.
All right. Well put there, Anila. Strong words being used, undoubtedly. Dr. Shah, this is a case of sheer desperation, and we're of course looking at a certain class of people who can also afford custom-made babies, given the fact that you have to pay a package of about 8 to 9 lakh rupees. Only then can you be assured a manipulation of the IVF to the extent that you know that you're having a male child for sure. But Dr. Shah, at this point, shouldn't we not consider questioning the monitoring system that has been lacking in nabbing this racket before today? Of course, this was with the intervention of the NCW in sending a deploy couple, but it's also about the ICMR to revisit their guidelines, regulatory bodies that have to be keeping vigil on ground. This is a racket, a very confident one, being operated pan-India to the extent of managing to find those partners in Dubai, Thailand and Singapore to see through that process as well.
You know, the thing is that this particular activity or sex selection is banned in our country. It's not banned in other countries. So in other countries where it is still permissible, there it's allowed that they could select the sex of the embryo before transferring it into the woman's uterus. See, basically what it involves is, I mean, the technology exists in India too. It's not that it doesn't exist here. It exists, but because it is banned, nobody utilizes it. Now the process involves is that when you create an embryo, when we are doing IVF, you take an egg, you take a sperm and you create an embryo. Now that embryo, the sex of the embryo is determined as soon as the fertilization takes place, by which I mean the egg and the sperm join together. Now once you have got the embryo growing, a biopsy is done from that embryo to know whether it's a male or a female. Now this technology was ideally made to look for genetic diagnosis. It was made to look at babies which are abnormal and not to transfer those embryos. But it's misuse of technology wherein they are determining the sex of the child and then transferring only the embryos of the sex selected. So in that case, when such a thing is done, how do you expect agencies such as monitoring agencies to look into this? It has to be self-regulation also. But yes, there has to be a law in place that if anyone is caught doing it, should be strictly punished. Now the question is, how do they know what's going on in the laboratory? Very difficult. So this is where I go with the government in that as to how do we monitor such practices. Now yes, here they had a couple which went, and it was a couple which was put forward by the NCW. It was a sting operation which managed to get it done. But how do you do a sting operation in an IVF lab? How do you know there's a biopsy going on there and what is being done? So I think that we really need to sit together and think of ways of how we can do such a situation. There has to be very strict regulation.
Let me get in our correspondent Alok on this here, because this is with respect to the technical point on nabbing clinics that have been operating in this manner with ongoing investigations here in this case. Okay, we seem to have lost that line. We're going to be reconnecting with Alok on that in just a bit. But Anila, given that this was operational from the start, first in India, in IVF clinics here in Delhi, so far, or what we know, apart from other big metros as well, and then reached to its conclusion out of India, in Dubai, in Singapore, Thailand, authorities are going to be requiring, Indian investigative authorities, Anila, at this point, are going to be requiring the help of authorities of those countries as well to further investigate this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think when things go across the border, then there has to be an understanding to curb this practice in between the two countries. And in our country, as Dr. Shah said, that we do not entertain sex determination. It is criminal. This center owned by a doctor or a person, you know, he gets punished or she gets punished if authorities come to know that they are in this type of business. They are telling, taking money and telling the sex of the fetus. So definitely it is absolutely morally, ethically it is wrong. And especially if I talk about the IVF babies here, Sarah, I know it very well that when when couple they approach doctors to have IVF babies, they are so desperate, and for them it doesn't matter that a child is a boy or a girl. But when some people, they lure them that, do you want to have a boy baby or a girl baby, we can do this thing for you, then definitely, seeing our Indian culture as it goes, people prefer to have a boy baby. If they are having one child, they prefer to have boy baby. So that is why so many acts and everything is there in our country to check this thing. But somewhere I think so, as very well said by you and the doctor, that ethically, personally, I mean, these doctors who are involved in it, they are doing wrong practice. They are going against the oath which they take. I mean, they are luring these people who wants to have IVF baby.
That's right.
Sir, I can, I'm going to share something with you here. Sir, I'm going to share something with, even I have IVF babies. And I know that when I approached a doctor for yes, and as a couple, we simply want to have babies. We want that love, that pleasure, that laugh in our life. For us, it doesn't matter that baby is boy or a girl. We just want to have babies. So here, I think ethically, doctors are on very, very wrong path when they tell, especially the couples coming from rural background or something like that, that, do you want to have a boy child or a girl? We can do that for you. We can give you this facility. You have to give this much of money. And I am pretty sure many a times people coming from rural background, Seha, they, they sell off their land, they sell off their properties to pay their big bills.
Okay. So, all right, Dr. Shah, Anila, we appreciate you adding a personal touch to this discussion here. But Dr. Shah, from your understanding, because you're in the system, in the medical system as a gynecologist, you meet several couples in a day. From your understanding, where would these couples be coming from? Are we really expecting couples from rural backgrounds to be coming in, being able to pay 8 to 10 lakh rupees for this intervention?
No, not really. I don't think couples, at least I don't see any couples coming from the rural area asking, unless of course they're extremely rich and they have a lot of money. Yes, they would do, because let's face it, even when you do an IVF abroad, it's so expensive. It's 10 times more expensive than it is in India. And that's why, as a matter of fact, people who cannot afford it in the US would come to India and do their IVF, especially Indian people, Indian NRIs, who find it easier to come and do their IVF here because it's cheaper.
Right.
So question of people going from here, even in 8 and 9 lakhs, I don't know how they can do their IVF there. I mean, it will cost much more. It will cost a lot of money to do IVF in the US especially. If you're going to Dubai probably, or Thailand, maybe it is 8-9 lakhs. And if they do go there, they have to think in terms of staying there for 15 days, paying the cost of the whole treatment. I mean, it is expensive. I don't expect people from the lower socioeconomic
right.
background to be able to afford this kind of treatment. So that answers your question, I suppose.
Okay. All right. Let me get in our correspondent Alok with further ongoing
Can I
investigations.
just
To what extent, Alok, here, because this is a question of morality as well. This is a question of the social fabric of the country, so to say. When you have couples having deep pockets, having that affordability to be paying 8 to 9 lakhs for this manipulative intervention of the IVF. Alok, what are your sources telling you as far as investigations here on this are concerned? Are couples going to be scrutinized as well? Couples who have availed of this service? Because this is a facility which has been provided based on the demand as well.
Yes, absolutely, Seher. The basic problem here is that police has not yet reached the basic couples who are, in fact, got benefited with this whole process. As of now, that there were some complaints that the health ministry had got, and on the basis of that, health ministry that conducted the search operation, and in fact, then they reached with the help of the local SDM through the call center. In fact, the call center is located in the Karol Bagh area. That there were around hundreds of women, in fact, got benefited. According to the documents that are seized from the call center, they were sent to these foreign countries. They, in fact, got conceived as
Okay.
and how many of them got the male child or not, that is not yet confirmed from the police as well as the authorities. That is what
Okay.
they are investigating. But there are separate angles that the police has to investigate. As of now, police says that they have made separate teams so that they would go more deeper into it. But they have to check the families as well as they have to question the people who are working in these call centers as well as the people who were working in the clinics as well. Those clinics that were touched, that were in
Okay.
fact in connection with the call center. So all these things police has to look into. So the police has already just began their probe.
All right. So,
Just
so the
hope that in coming
entire
days
system is going to be scrutinized. Accountability with respect to the doctors involved, with respect to those running this clinic, with respect to those running the call center, and of course the parents involved could be scrutinized and questioned as well. Anila Singh, final point to you here, because the ART bill, which is expected to be passed in the next parliament session, has not been passed. This would require a quick intervention from our union ministry, our union health ministry, in bringing about that amendment in the existing bill. As far as this aspect of it is concerned, the manipulation of the IVF in seeking this service here, clearly for the manipulation of getting a male child.
I'm pretty sure, sir, because you know our health minister, he understands these things, the racket which goes on behind the IVF clinic. So I'm pretty sure that these amendments will be, you know, they will be jotted in, and very soon a new bill will be introduced, so that because just now even you mentioned, I mean, age should also be there, and the different this
Age is a
customization
cap,
of male
yes.
child and female child, and like tomorrow other things will be added. Yeah, I think so amendment will be there so that these all things can be safeguarded, and if people they go ahead for IVF babies, whether surrogacy or IVF babies in any form, so I mean at least this type of practice should not be entertained this time. I mean, it is not good for
Right. And to have a
for the girls
regulatory bodies
in our
maintaining far
country. I
more
mean, we
vigil on
already
this
suffer
here
from
as well.
patriarchy.
Absolutely. Anila, appreciate you saying that. Appreciate you saying that, Anila. Dr. Shah, thank you for being with us here as well. And our correspondent Alok with those inputs here. This is a huge scam that has been unearthed, and investigations on this are still on. We already know that there are about 1,500 clinics that were being operated with the manipulation of the IVF. Since it wasn't allowed in India, it was being done overseas in other countries, and then the conceived mother was brought back to the country. But at the end of the day, this is a question that we need to ask ourselves as well. Instead of scrutinizing the authorities and saying why proper guidelines are not on ground, ask this question to yourself. The desperation, the extent to which you would go to have a male child, why is a female child so bad? have a child, be happy about having a child instead of running after the gender of the child. Thank you for being with us.